South Africans waking up to the tragic news of a fire gutting a building in the Johannesburg CBD. Again, at the time of recording this, 64 people having lost their lives, countless injured. What is going on in the city of Joburg? Molo Sanbonani, hello, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another episode of the Vuka Nazo Show here on the Big Daddy Liberty channel. My name is Sihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty. Let me jump straight into it because the nature of the story is nothing short of an absolute disaster, and one which maybe some might argue was avoidable. And unfortunately, the nature of these sort of things, people already pointing fingers in some quarters. But what am I referring to? Of course, a fire gutting a building, many saying to have been a derelict building that was filled with illegal squatters. Indeed, that's how the city emergency services described this particular building that they responded to in the early hours of yesterday morning. A fire raging through this building. Desperate scenes at that time as people tried to obviously flee and escape the building. Many being unable to do that. Of course, at the time of recording this, as I mentioned, 64 people losing their lives and as many as over 40 injured in various injuries from smoke inhalation to burns and the like. I want to read from this independent piece. It really captured the chaotic scenes playing out at the time. By 9 a.m. on Thursday, the revised death toll showed that at least 64 bodies had been removed from the gutted building. One of the deceased people is a toddler. Mulaudzi, who of course is the spokesperson for city's emergency medical services, said in his decades of serving in the emergency service, he had not seen such a harrowing scene. End of quote. And again, I want to come back to this because some of the images we saw coming out of this particular scene, including of those people who had lost their lives, the bodies piling up, were absolutely heartbreaking. I want to circle back to the spokesperson for the City of Johannesburg's EMS, that's Emergency Medical Services, who spoke to journalists at this particular story and said the following.
And then 43 people were injured. They were treated for smoke inhalation and minor injuries. They were transported to various healthcare facilities. The chances of the number increases is very high because of the nature of the environment where we operate. The building is an informal settlement. All the floors is an informal settlement. So therefore, the risk of one being trapped inside that area is very much high. Hence, we want to remove any uncertainty in terms of, maybe bodies being trapped inside all the levels. That's why we're making sure that we're moving in all the floors to make sure that we don't have any, maybe body which might still be trapped. And then from there, we'll hand over the incident to the South African Police Service. If I'm sure you understand that it's a police scene now, the area, because of the number of people who actually lost their lives here. In terms of the cause of the fire incident, at this stage, it's still a subject of investigations. We don't know what might be the cause of the fire incident.
A absolute disaster of the scene, which of course, as Umlaudzi mentioned, the police will comb through that particular crime scene now in order to establish the cause of the fire and establish culpability, of course. But I did mention at the beginning of this that there already are finger pointing in this particular incident. Of course, a lot of people saying, where was the city administration? Where was the city of Johannesburg? Where was the city, of course, insofar as enforcing the law, bylaws around derelict buildings or unoccupied buildings, or buildings that are meant to be unoccupied but are actually occupied by illegal squatters? I mean, you heard the city officials who responded to the fire describing the inside of that building as being like an informal settlement. Many people trapped inside as that fire raged because of the nature of that illegal settlement in the building. It is an absolute tragedy, and I must say this, the other part of the story, of course, are people who are pointing fingers at some NGOs, the likes of, SERI, that's the Socioeconomic Rights Institute of South Africa, an NGO, much like the Helen Suzman Foundation, which often takes the city of Johannesburg and other cities to court when the cities try to enforce the said laws. Lots of finger pointing, as I mentioned, going around at the moment. And again, Let's not lose sight of what's happened here. People have lost their lives. This is a tragedy of epic proportions. And I must say this, there must be accountability at the end of this particular story. So we'll keep an eye on it and see exactly how this story develops and unfolds. And until then, our sincere condolences to the families of those who are distraught and who have lost loved ones, and those who are injured, we wish them a speedy recovery.